Hey y'all. So, welcome back to Charisma Cares Travels the World. So, I'm not sure what I'm going to name this video yet, but you will know by the time you click on the link. Um, Today I want to talk a little bit about moving out of the country as an expat, whether you're going to be a traveling nomad or whatever that may be, but with children. So I was doing some research on Mexico City because I will be moving to Mexico City for the next few months. That is going to come to a shock at for some of my followers because I have not made that announcement yet. However, I am in the process of doing that. And what I found was that when I'm researching, there are little to no videos about parents moving abroad to Mexico City. I have to be frank, I am looking at Mexico City with their children. And that was just a little shocking to me. So, if you don't know who I am, or if you're new to my channel, I am Charisma. I am Charisma Cares Travels the World. I travel the world the majority of the year with my son, and we do so. With my son, who also happens to have special needs and a disability, and we do so by my real estate investments. So I teach other women how to travel the world, whether you're single, with a child, dealing with disabilities or special needs. But I also teach women how to invest in real estate, whether that is single family house hacking, multifamily syndications where you're investing hands off. I have a lot of self-paced course. I host a boot camp and a slew of other things. So if that is something that interests you, any of the above, visit me at charisma-cares.com. Right now, I have a free gift for you, your real estate toolkit. So jump in there and grab that free gift. So that is that. So I've been traveling around with my son, and sometimes my daughter joins in for about a little over a year now. Started my travels in the summer of 2021. And since then, I have visited maybe 5 countries, five, six, something like that, y'all. Um, and what I want to do today is I want to go over the things that's most important to me, the things that I have learned during my travels. And I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've done a lot of things right as well. And as I continue to travel, and as you do it as well, we continue to learn things. So I wanted to come to you from the standpoint of a mom. Excuse me. Sorry, y'all. Um, my voice sounds a little raspy to me. So sorry. If this is the first time you're seeing me, it normally sounds a little better. Um, and it's so cold. I'm here in Atlanta right now, my hometown. So it's so cold in Atlanta right now. But I wanted to come to you as a mom because, like I said, I watched Serge and Tana talk about their move to Mexico City. I watched Rashida before you moved to Mexico City. And of course, everything that she tells you is about a single woman, 1 bedroom. This is how you can move to Mexico City. These are the things that you look for, but it's from a single woman perspective. So, I'm doing my research because I know Rashida is like, rah, 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 Mexico City. So who better to watch than Sheeta's on the loose? And there's some great information, but there's some things missing for me as a mom, and especially as a single mom. Then I watched Adelia, Rated Neighborhoods of Mexico City. One thing that I did like with Adelia's video that was very helpful for me is that she actually did mention cities that are child friendly. Area and not cities, I think areas that are child friendly. And then she also mentioned green space. So that was very helpful to me. I'll link all of these videos for you if you know need to see it, because of course just because they're single doesn't mean their video isn't helpful. It's definitely helpful, but there's a few little things that I need to know as far as being a mom. So I'm going to tell you some things that I look at, not necessarily in Mexico City, but as traveling as a mom with a child. These things are going to be beneficial to you, whether your child has a disability or special needs, or if you just got kids that's running around doing things and you just need to make sure they're in a safe area and an area that you all can both, again, you not necessarily both because it's just me and my son, but you all can thrive in. So the first thing that I look at, well, I don't even know if it's the first thing I look at. I'm lying, y'all. But the first thing that you probably should look at is cost of living. And the reason why I say I don't know that I look at is because over this past like 18 months, I have been more of a traveling nomad. So for that reason, cost of living is not as important to me when as a traveling nomad, because I'm not staying there long. Honestly, the things that I more so look at are the price of plane tickets. I get on my Skyscanner and my Hopper so I can compare price of tickets. As a nomad, you're jumping and hopping. And where I'm jumping and hopping to, I can't necessarily get on a bus or a train. South America, Central America is not as train friendly as a place like Europe. And I would say that there's areas that you can do the bus. However, I don't do more than 5 hours. Like 5 hours is it for charisma. Like we ain't doing that. We're going to get our butts on this plane and we're going to keep it trucking. We're going to be there about an hour. I just can't, like, and that's just me. Your backpack people, oh, they on it. They doing it. They saving way more money than me. Me, I'm not. So I have this standard of living that I have come to expect in my life. And so I'm like a bougie on a budget type of person. I do look at the cost of what it will cost me to stay in these areas, which I feel like falls under cost of living. So I do look at lodging. Although I'm not pro Airbnb, y'all, I have to be pro Airbnb. And the reason why is I don't like to stay and live in hotels. I can do a hotel for a few days, but it's not my comfort zone. I prefer for us to all have our own rooms. I prefer to have a kitchen because I cook. I'm a cooker. I don't like to eat out a lot. Even if it's sit down restaurants, I grew up where we ate out on Friday, Saturday, and then we were home on Sunday, right? And even if I had to cook, Sunday through Thursday was typically a home cooked meal. Whether I was in Atlanta or whether I was in New York, I was raised between the two. It was always Sunday through Thursday were home cooked meals. So for that reason, I have taken that on. So for me, living in a hotel is not ideal. Plus, y'all, I don't even want to be around my kids like all the time. Like y'all may be that family, right? Where you around your kids all the time. Now, my kids, we ain't like that. We each got our own room, we got our own door we can close. We doing our own thing. We come together. We're still people that sit at the dinner table. That's us. So I look at the cost. And I digress. I do that a lot, y'all. I'm sorry. I look at the cost of the Airbnbs in the area. That makes a difference for me. I do have a budget that I do not like to go over. Personally, I like to be around $1,000, give or take. I could do normally $800 to $1,200 is my sweet spot for a 2-bedroom. Looking in Mexico City, it could be a little more expensive in some of the hot areas like Condesa, Polanco, Roma Norte. But I'm starting to look at some areas that's not in those hot areas, because there are things that I'm looking for in neighborhoods. And I found that I can sometimes get that outside of the hot areas. When I lived in Dominican Republic for a few months. Actually, I was there for 6 months. I don't know how I forgot that. But I lived in Dominican Republic. I lived in Punta Cana on the beach, 2 bedroom, $800 to $900 a month. Very nice condo there. So, you can live in these areas. I have to say I'm typically in Latin American communities. Or Latin American countries. So I find that Latin America, for the most part, is or Caribbean is a little cheaper than America anyway. So it's not really like I'm mind blown. So of course your prices can go up, especially if you're not looking. So be mindful of that. A lot of times, how I find my place to stay, I take my Airbnb and convert it to a monthly rental. So I'll do my Airbnb. I used to rent for a month. I now try to rent for a week or two, because if it's bad, you're stuck with it. So I try to rent for a week or two. After I rent for that week or two, if I like it, and there's going to be some things I'm going to change. I am notorious for coming in there and changing the furniture. Like at the day one, my daughter's like, "You are such a mom." I come in there, I change the furniture, I put away anything breakable, because you ain't about to be charging me. So I put it under the cabinet, anything breakable. I switch over the furniture. I'll change up some sofas. I may move the bed. I may move they don't really do dressers. Move the nightstands. I may switch some things out, and I put it back when I leave. But if you come and you do some kind of check while I'm there, this is my place. I'm renting this, so don't be worried about what I did here. You'll get your place back when I leave. So I do my Airbnbs, and I basically ask them if they are willing to rent to me monthly, because I'm going to be staying long term. I have yet to have anyone tell me no. And the reason why, as a real estate investor, I understand that having somebody stay long term for a lower price is actually better than dealing with the constant turnover, because every time they turn over their Airbnb, that's money. I have not, well, I don't even want to say I haven't tried this during high season, because I did this during spring break as well. So that's what I do. When I do that, typically I may have to pay, in some cases I may have to pay, utilities. So, I may be paying my electric. In Dominican Republic, it was like prepaid electric. So I paid my electric. It was like $30 a month. Then it got really hot, y'all, and it was like $60 a month. She was like, "Oh, your electricity increased. You may want to use it less." No, lady. No, I don't want to use it less. Just give me the bill and I'll pay whatever it is, because it's hot as hell here. And one thing I don't do is hot as hell. So go ahead and give me my $60 bill and let me happily pay it, because this is ludicrous. This heat here is insanity. So cost of living. The other thing that I look at, so I don't have to worry about too much about utilities and all those things. Now that I am going to move to Mexico City and I'm trying to be in an area for the next 4 to 6 months, I may look into that. I've started looking at apartments. However, it sounds like a lot of work. I ain't even gonna lie. Like, I gotta walk around. I gotta find something. I gotta figure out what city I want to be in. I gotta worry about the noise level. Rashida told me I gotta worry about toilet paper, whether I can flush it or not. Adelia told me that I had to worry about a broiler versus a water heater. It just sounds like a lot of work. So I think I'm gonna find an Airbnb. And I'm just going to live in that monthly. And when I do live in it monthly, I'm living off of the Airbnb platform. I've already stayed with them on Airbnb. And, all the kinks have been worked out through Airbnb. So at this point, I'm living off of the platform. I'm paying them directly via PayPal or Wise. And that is the way that is working. So they are more like a landlord to me than anything else. If anything happens, I contact them. So that's basically how that works. So I may end up doing that again in Mexico City. I found that if I get out of Condesa, Polanco, and all of that, I could stay within my budget around $1,000 for a 2-bedroom. Next thing is I told y'all I cook. So number 2 for me is food costs. Food costs is fairly expensive for me because, not expensive, fairly important for me because I do cook. I don't mind a good street taco. When we lived in DR, me and Cam, we would go and get some pollo guisada. It was amazing. We do Wednesday lunch dates. It was like $7. And if you caught some of my videos or my lives, or I think on my Facebook, I would post our food. Honey, we had rice, beans, salad, meat, and jugo, of whatever kind, some kind of fruit juice, and not just like we poured it out the bottle. They were out here making this fruit juice. It was amazing. I have to say, DR was pretty amazing. I didn't love the people, but I loved just the country itself. The food was great. So we will do a lunch date. Don't get me wrong. I ain't saying we don't never eat out. Lunch is, if we're going to eat out, it's typically going to be lunch because we're moving that day. I'm not working. I'm not working on projects and investing and all of that. So we're moving. That's the day that we're moving. So we definitely going to do that. But I do typically cook my dinners. We definitely eat breakfast at home. I'm not a breakfast person. Cam is. He always like, Mom, you're not a breakfast person? No, I'm not. I'll drink some tea, herbal tea, and keep it moving. So I would say our food costs are not that expensive in most places. Now, let me tell you, when you first move somewhere, if you're a cooker, your initial food costs are high. And the reason why that is that's because you got to get all your condiments. I try to travel with my seasonings. So, I try to make sure I have like a Ziploc bag of seasonings. I'm not one of those people that got to have a whole huge cabinet. I never have been. But I do a Ziploc bag of seasonings. And I'm going to tell y'all, those DR women, they can cook. And they taught me how to cook. So y'all and Nigerians, y'all can cook. So I'm going to tell y'all get me, at this point in my life, get me some garlic, an onion, a green pepper, and and a carrot. I'm doing amazing things in this kitchen. So I don't need a whole bunch of seasoning. One bag is all I need. My Lowry seasoned salt, my lemon pepper seasoning, my garlic pepper, my curry. I gotta have my curry chicken. I tried curry goat. I did pretty good at curry goat. And some little jerk, but jerk, I could typically find that. But I would say those are my 4 staples. Oh, well, of course, pepper. And I'm not really a salt person, so I don't just buy salt because I feel like salt is in my seasoning. So I carry those with me, so I don't have to buy that. I do have to buy the condiments. I need ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise. And I try to buy the small package, just like $1, because normally I'm not staying that long at the location. And you'd be amazed how long those things last. You typically will have to buy water in these areas. So you have to buy the big jug of water. There's actually a little pump. I'm actually going to buy that before I leave the States. So I'll have that pump with me because most places I go, I do have to buy a big water jug. What else do you have to buy? When you're first starting out, you got to get all that fruit, all those vegetables. And y'all, I always overbuy, to be honest. I think that I feel like I'm a cook way more than I do because I always have something left. And what I do, whoever I meet, whatever locals I meet or expats, I give them any food products that I have left. I used to live in an Airbnb, but one time this Airbnb woman, she was so rude about me leaving it because I thought that maybe the cleaning person may want it or whatever, because I don't like to throw stuff away. So I no longer leave it. I always give it to someone, even if it's my cleaning lady. I let her know I'm gonna leave food for her, and she can have it. Because a lot of times these people, they're lower income, and they can use these things. So I don't want to just throw them away, but I'm not taking them with me to my next location because it's not prudent for me to do so. My bags have to be weighed. They cost money. Is the amount of an overweight charge worth me taking these things with me? And this isn't just for food items, toys that I buy beach toys. When we get there, I just give those away. I don't need to be walking through the thing with a sand bucket and some a pail and some things. I don't need all of that. So I just give all of that away. So the next thing is the people. The people are very important to me. This is something I have learned along my journey. And when I say the people, I'm not just talking to expats, I'm also talking to locals. Um, I will say that sometimes traveling with children gets a little lonely because a lot of times the people traveling are single. They don't have kids, much less a special needs child. So I have to find my community wherever I travel, and that's not always with expats. Um, it typically is with expats for me as a single woman. So my friends, I meet a lot of expats. Girl, let's go do this. Let's have lunch. Let's do coffee. Let's go out. However, 9 times out of 10, they don't have children. So, I bring my son along, or I have my nanny, which I'm also going to talk about that as well. But the people that have kids are the locals. It's the locals that my son ends up playing with. So I want to know that the locals are open to foreigners being in their community. And I can pretty much tell this just by walking down the street. Who is willing to help me, how they speak to me, if they say hi, bye, hola, whatever. Also, in some of the Facebook groups, you want to go to the expat groups, but I also try to go to some of the local groups, because that is where you're going to see the interaction. And if you post something in English, that is when you're going to see how they interact or don't interact with you. If you're one of those people that do a scouting trip, simply walk up and down the streets and you'll kind of figure it out quickly. When I think about the places that I stayed, I look at like Colombia, whereas I felt like they were really indifferent to me being an expat, or a foreigner. It wasn't that they loved it, it wasn't that they hated it. They were cordial when they needed to be, but I felt it's a bit more fast paced. I think because I did not stay in the more popular expat area, they kind of saw me and it just was like, it was like a head, like, you really here? So that was more my experience there. I didn't stay long there. I stayed a month, for Christmas, because it was supposed to be a wonderful place for Christmas, and I stayed near one of the popular parks there. But that is important to me. When I stayed in the DR, I didn't find them to be as friendly towards foreigners and expats. I felt that they saw like a whole dollar sign on my head, and I don't really care for places that only see a dollar sign on my head. And even after me living there 2 months in a small community that they were used to me, it was still a dollar sign on my head. So those are things that I look at. Am I allowed to kind of become one of you all in a sense? Or am I still considered an outsider? So that's important to me. Mexico City, we've met some friends, some locals, expats. My son plays with locals. We're looking at schools, things of that nature. So I do like the people there. They're just a friendly group of people. They're very open, very happy to help, very happy to invite you to be part of their community. So the next one it kind of goes into what I was saying. Is it a kid-friendly city? And to me, a kid-friendly city incorporates it incorporates a little bit of everything. But I want to know that when I walk on those streets, that they are okay with us being there. When we go into restaurants, I've been in some countries where in the restaurant, it's a nice sit down restaurant, beautiful, everything's set up. You would think this is a great place for a dinner date, and in the back is a playground. I love it. I love it. Now, as a single person, you may not love it. You may actually hate that. Not my problem. Not my problem. Because it actually works for me. Now, when I'm single and doing solo trips, y'all, I don't want to go there. So it just depends on what hat I'm wearing that day. But as a mom, I do love that my son can go play in the playground or swing on the swing while I continue to have dinner with someone, a friend, whomever. That is something I like. In a lot of these places, the kids will be out playing till 11, 12 at night, and it's not a big deal. Like, nobody is like, oh my God, why is that kid outside? Because everybody kid is outside. Like, I think that's a Latin America thing, though. I don't think that's a country by country. Latin America allows more freedom of the children. They allow them to be seen, whereas we're like seen, not heard. They allow them to be seen and heard. I was talking to my Mexican friend. No, we were actually out at the mall, and I kept telling Cam, shh, shh, not so loud, not so loud. And eventually she told me, she was like, Charisma, we don't do that here. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, they just talk. They're never too loud. Like, that's just not something they're kids, and kids are kids, and they're just allowed to be that way. And, I'm still getting used to that concept, because I'm still like, boy, be quiet. That is a different concept for me, because in America, kids are seen, not heard. So that is something you may have to get used to. If, even if you're a single person, you may have to get used to the fact that, kids are allowed to be here and do these things and experience these things. And they are part of the family unit, because the family unit is very important in Latin America. So learn something new every day, right? So that will take me into the parks and the green space, and I'm all out of order of what I said I was going to do. But one thing that I learned is that parks and green space is very important to me, having a child with a child. Very important to me as a mother with kids. Yeah. For a couple of reasons. One, green space means parks. In Latin America, parks means a lot. It definitely can mean a lot. In Colombia, if you see something that says parque, expect it to be outstanding. In Colombia, Parque Norte had a park. It had a science center. It had what's the things with the dinosaur bones? It had that. It had all kinds of things to do. It had an aquarium, and it started with Parque Norte, Parque Explora, Parque. You're not about to pay more than $5, but you're about to have the time of your life doing things. I had a lot of fun in Colombia. I'm sorry, this was Medellin, Colombia that I was in. But I had a lot of fun in Medellin, taking the kids to do stuff. At the time, my daughter was with me as well. So we were just doing all kinds of things for less than $5 each. It was just so much. And one thing, so you have to know that the parks in Latin America is just amazing. There's just, we went to one park, and it was a whole amusement park out there. I was like, this is the park? So you have the park, you have the amusement part of the park. You have whatever special thing is going on in the park. It's just quite amazing. But also remember, if you have parks and green space, you have children. Where there are parks, there are children. So if you're looking for children, if you want to have your children play, you want them to have someone to play with, the best place to meet people is in the park, because you're going to have a lot more families there, a lot more moms there. You're going to have the ability to create some of those mom relationships outside of your expat bubble. And then if this is the area that you're living in, you can go to this park on a regular basis and get to know people. So that's why parks are very important. To find parks and green space, you just look on the map, zoom in, and look for the green. That's your park and your green space. That big green splat on the map. Got it? Okay, so the next thing I want to go into is the help. And I don't know what number I'm up to, maybe 5, 6. And I hate to say the help. Y'all, I don't know. How am I supposed to actually say that? Anyway, what I have found that once I leave the States, well, even in the States, I had a nanny. Once I leave the States, I do continue to have a nanny. Nanny costs me so much less. Sometimes $5 an hour, sometimes $8 or $9. In Atlanta, nannies are like $25, $30, $35 an hour. Makes me wonder how I ended up going to school to be a registered nurse. My first job paid $20 an hour. Maybe I should have been a nanny. All right, so once I leave, I have to have a nanny. I am a single mom and I need assistance with my son. He does have special needs and it can get a little tiring sometimes. I know, right? Are we supposed to say that? Yes, it can get tiring. I'm sorry, I'm not a robot. So it's nice to have a nanny when I'm working, because we do homeschool. She takes my son out. They go to different activities. They do all of these different things around the city. Having a nanny that is a local opens the door to a lot, because she also can tell me different things, where to shop, where not to shop, the parks, the activities to go to, the things that's not necessarily put on social media, or that would take me a long time to find. She can cook. I also like to have a cook, and I like to have my nanny cook. And I prefer my nanny to clean too. I'm be honest, my nanny is the staple of the house. I ain't even gonna lie. She is doing everything. She is amazing. I just fall in love with my nannies. They're just out. They just make my life so much more bearable. They do laundry, they fold clothes, they cook, they clean, which means I also get lovely meals. Lovely local meals. Yeah, all included in my price of a nanny. I love my nannies. They're amazing. If you have kids, you should get a nanny. I don't think you realize what you're missing by not having a nanny. In America, we have this false sense of doing it all ourselves because we are superwoman. And hear me roar. Superwoman is overrated. Help is where it's at. In these countries, did you know the help has help? The nannies have nannies. Yes. They do not believe in doing all this stuff themselves. Even if they're doing it for you, they have somebody else doing it for them too. Because these are places where service is top of the line. It's just what you do. It's not frowned upon. It's not looked down on. You're not looked at as, oh my God, you got somebody cleaning your house. My housekeeper was only coming once a week, and she was late that week. And my nanny was like, oh, do you need me to, she was like, where's your housekeeper at? Because, I work a lot on my business and things like that, probably a little bit more than I should. So I need my housekeeper to come clean because I ain't got time to clean. I'm clean. Don't get me wrong, y'all. I'm cleaning, like my kitchen is clean, stuff like that. But like I sweeping and mopping and all, I ain't got time for all of that. Like y'all need to come and clean. Like in a life where people don't come and cook and clean, it's not a life I'm interested in anymore. I know it sounds bad for those of you that have not left the States. That sounds very bougie and bad, right? But this life of ease that I am working myself into, because y'all, I'm a hard worker. So it's taken time to work myself into a life of ease. My life of ease consists of a nanny, preferably that cooks and cleans. My nanny is typically at least 20 to 30 hours a week. Let me add that in. Like if you're only doing a nanny for a day a week, which is fine because maybe you just need a day of rest. I'm not sure your nanny's going to be able to do all of that. You may just hire a separate housekeeper or something like that. It really just depends on what the culture is. And most of my nannies have done all of that for me. They've done light housekeeping, but I have had a nanny that did deep housekeeping. Honey, she cleaned those bathrooms better than I ever could have. She was out there cooking. What you want? She would, honey, she would take the fish out the freezer and be cooking up some coconut fish. I'd be like, oh, God, can I marry you? Like, you are amazing. You are just awesome. I really miss her. So I will make a separate video on how I find my nannies though. If I haven't made it already, I'll link it. I'll let you know. So help is important to me. City with no help, city with expensive help is a city without charisma. Next one is walkability. I like to do a lot of walking. I don't really like to rent cars. I prefer a city where I can walk or I can Uber. I am no longer pro taxi. Backstory, I was in Playa del Carmen riding in a taxi. I was hit while in a taxi, and sustained a lot of injuries. Since the taxi system is not really a system. Everybody owns their own taxi. The taxi did not take responsibility for the accident, nor did the other driver who was uninsured. I feel like had I been in an Uber, things would have been definitely been a lot different. So for that reason, I am not pro taxi. I need Uber, I need Lyft, or probably public transportation. But I don't know, because my accident was not that long ago at the time of this recording. I don't know that I would live in another city where I 100% have to depend on the taxi system, unless it's something like you know how New York City, their taxis are connected. I don't know that I would do that. I'm still a little salty about the taxi, so that is just my personal preference. People take taxis all the time at Playa del Carmen. They have a Radio City app. Some people get blocked. It's a whole thing. I'm not doing it. But walkability, because I digress, is very important to me. I like to walk. I like to have my son walk. The exercise, along with the fruits and vegetables and natural clean eating that you just automatically do when you're living abroad, makes for a more healthier body. Whether you know, skinny, fat, whatever, I feel like you're more healthier when you live in a place with walkability, because you're moving. Whereas when we live in Atlanta, we're not moving nowhere. We're not walking. You know, we getting in the car, we going inside, and then we getting back in the car. You know, getting in the car, out the car, going to your destination, back in the car. And that's what you do. So, you know, no wonder we have hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, things like that, because we're not getting any movement. So walkability is very important to me. And since my son uses crutches, I need your streets not to look like somebody came and busted him up with a sledgehammer. I need you to have halfway decent streets. They don't have to be perfect, but they need to be halfway decent. I find in Mexico City, they're halfway decent. Whereas when I went somewhere like Playa del Carmen, Carmen, they were horrendous. They're great on Fifth Avenue, but once you leave the Fifth Avenue, those streets are horrendous. So that's not a place that we could truly live in because hell, he wasn't falling, but I kept getting hurt. I stubbed my toe, I tripped. Well, no, my son fell a couple of times. So that's something that I need to look at, is the walkability, but also the infrastructure of the place. When I talk infrastructure, I also have to talk about elevators. That may not be important for you, but with a son with a disability, we're using crutches, we're using wheelchair. Elevators are important. We could typically do one flight of stairs, but preferably I prefer not to because I have to carry the wheelchair up and down these stairs, which it's not always something I'm able to do. So I do look at places where I can either be on the first floor or I have a wheelchair. And like I said, I look at those streets, how are they made, and as well as, just the general infrastructure there. When I speak of infrastructure, I also have added to my little kit a carbon monoxide detector, especially living someplace like Mexico City, where we have seen a couple of cases here lately. There's a lot of places have a broiler. A lot of times you're just either keeping the windows open or closed, depending on the weather, because there's no heat and no AC in most of these places. So these are things that you need to be mindful of when we're thinking about the infrastructure and keeping your kids safe. Having a smoke detector and having a carbon monoxide detector is important because a lot of these places do not have it. Unlike in the States, it's not something that is a requirement. So I do recommend you pack that in the bag and bring that with you. I want to write that down because I'm going to give you a link to that, to the smoke detector and the fire detectors. Okay, so the next thing is the schools. If you're not homeschooling or world schooling, you do want to look into the schools, public, private. In busy cities like Mexico City, you want to live near the school because the traffic here can get really bad. But in a place like Playa del Carmen, we did take a quick taxi over to the schools. I love the schools in Playa del Carmen. I actually found two that I really loved. If it was a place I would stay, it would really be because of those schools and the beach right there, because I absolutely love the beach. In Mexico City, there are a lot of Montessori schools, Waldorf schools. I have not been able to find any world schools. And right now, with this being Christmas season, I haven't really heard back from a lot of the schools. The ones I have heard back from, they said that they're full, and that seems to be a big thing there. So even though I want to put him in school for the next few months while I'm in Mexico City, that may not be doable. However, so that is a good key to you, that if you're looking to put your kids in schools, especially in larger cities, that may be something you want to research before you move, because there may be a waiting list and it may be kind of difficult to get them into the school right away. You may be waiting a couple of months, you may be waiting until the next semester. So if that's something that you want to do, start researching that ahead of time. Get in some of these Facebook groups. Typically find the mom group in that area, and the mom group is who's going to help you find the schools. Two more things. Language barrier. Y'all, I've been trying to learn Spanish for the last year. Some days I just don't even feel like being bothered. And I know I have to, because I have to learn the language of the people. But some days I just want to talk to people in English, and I don't even feel like trying. And I appreciate that there are places that are okay with me being lazy with my Spanish that day. It doesn't happen very often. Most of the time I really, really do try. But some days I just want to point on the menu and show you what I want. And I appreciate places that are okay with that. Most of the time, though, I am doing Spanish, but at this point, I can't go to a country with another language. I'm just too tired to learn another language right now. I need to at least, I'm not a person that will go to somebody's country and not learn any of their language. I at least need to learn the bare minimums and jump onto Duolingo and at least know a little bit of it. Right now, I just don't have it in me. So if the country doesn't speak English or Spanish, I'm probably not going to stay there. I can go for a visit as a tourist because you expect me to be ignorant to your language. Sorry, it's true. However, if I'm going to go to stay, I don't need to be ignorant to your language. I need to know at least a little bit. I need to know enough to be dangerous. For that reason, Spanish or English is where it's at right now. And lastly, I need things to do. We need activities. I thought that beach life was enough for me, just having a beach, but that gets boring. Yes, it does. It gets very, very boring. So I need other things to do. I need some museums, some parks. Like I mentioned in Medellin, they had Parque Colombia. In Panama, when we went to Panama, you could go to the pier, you could go to the beach, you could go, there were a lot of different places that you could go to have fun. I don't think I explored half of them. So what I found is that I need a little bit of a city life because we get bored, the kids get bored. We start to incorporate some lessons. So we may start going to museums and incorporate that into it. But sleepy beach town is just not for me. It's funny how in Punta Cana they say, well, this was once a sleepy beach town. Y'all, it's still a sleepy beach town. Ain't that much to do here. Like, I'm gonna be honest, it's a great place to spend 2 weeks, but after 2 weeks, you've done everything. Now, it is literally a place where you can do most everything in 2 weeks because a lot of it is water activities. And I mean, one will only swim with the dolphins, once, or I guess you could swim with the dolphins more, and then do some of the go-karts or whatever. So some of these places are not going to have a lot of activities that you can do if you're somebody that's living there. And I think part of this problem is because I am from Atlanta. Like I said, between Atlanta and New York, I've always had a multitude of things to do. So, even though I decided initially I wanted a sleepy beach, I don't want a sleepy beach. So if that's not something you know about yourself, it is something you will find out about yourself when you go there. So take some time to find out, is this really what I want? Is this something that my kids will enjoy? Because you want it to be enjoyable for both of you, or for all of you. So I will say we got through those 10 things. Let me know if there's anything else that you feel like is important to know before traveling, moving to a place with your kids. If you have any questions for me, let me know that as well. If you did like this video, please let YouTube know you liked it by clicking the like button. Also, I make videos like this all the time. Where I just talk about our travels, things to do. I talk about real estate, just life, our life in general, and how we live it. So subscribe to the channel and make sure you ding the bell to get notifications, because I also go live typically on Tuesdays, but you want to make sure you know when I go live, so ding that bell. Don't forget to visit charisma-cares.com for your free real estate toolkit if that's something that you're interested in. I want us all to be great out here, doing amazing things and living life on our own terms. So until next time, y'all, ciao.